What's up everyone, welcome to the video. We're here breaking down the Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway, the track too tough to tame, the lady in the black, whichever one you prefer, but we are racing on Sunday night, September 4th around 6:30 p.m. Eastern. This should be a good one. I do enjoy Darlington, it's one of my favorite tracks. We're also kicking off the start of the playoffs for the 2022 season. It should be a good one, fresh off an exciting race at Daytona. Exciting, chaotic, kind of boring at the end, but either way, it had just about everything you could ask for there. We had junkers finishing inside the top 10. We had a new winner to create drama for Martin Truex Jr. and Ryan Blaney. We had weather mixed in. It was a wild weekend, and hopefully it's a little bit more tame this weekend, but I'm sure plenty of drivers are going to earn their Darlington stripes. But anyway, if you are brand new here, and I doubt you are because we are getting into football season, so that's when NASCAR does start to lose some interest. But if you are brand new here, my name is Pennell. I do break down the NASCAR DFS slate each and every single weekend on this channel. You can also find me live on Sunday mornings or afternoons. I'm playing around 11:30, 12 p.m., just about the same time as usual. And disclaimer, this is going to be the last live stream of the season. I'm not going to do these live shows during football Sunday. It's just the NFL takes over. So if you want to come in for the last stream, we've had a lot of people in there recently. I'd love to see you for the last time. Still going to be posting the videos, obviously, each and every single week, but the live streams, unfortunately, do go at this point of the year. So I'd love to see you all one last time, at least live. And you can also find me over on Stochastic doing the live before lock shows and writing articles over on the website if you ever want to check those out. If you do end up enjoying today's free content, the only thing I ask in return is just something small, but it does go a long way. If you can leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit that bell so you're notified whenever I post new content. And feel free to leave a comment down below, agreeing or disagreeing with anything I say throughout the duration of this week's video. If you're just going to tell me hi or I suck, you are free to do that as well. And if we could once again get 300 plus likes on this week's video, that'd be absolutely awesome. You guys kill it for me each and every single week, and it does go a long way because the more people that see these videos, doesn't just help me out, helps us all out as a community, so I truly do appreciate it. And don't forget to check out the sponsor of the show, Prize Picks, that do make these videos possible. And as of right now, if you are a new society over there, you can get instant deposit match bonus up to $100. It is free money, no strings attached. Make sure you use that to your advantage when you use code CPEN. Sign up and tell them I sent you. And we have football starting soon. And I love Prize Picks for the NFL because a lot of their lines are much softer compared to sports books over on FanDuel and DraftKings that offer player props. So I really would recommend taking advantage of that. I'll be posting videos throughout the season about some of my favorite player props to talk about in the Discord and whatnot. So if you've not yet signed up on Prize Picks, I would highly recommend doing it for football season. They always throw out some freebies, some nice promos to check out as well. But I think that's it for the plugs for the most part, so without further ado, let's get into the preview of this week's race. And as previously mentioned, this is your Cookout Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway. It's got a couple of nicknames, just choose your favorite. There's your outline of the track. Kind of looks like an egg. It's pretty unique, but it's a steeper track. It's an oval. I'm not sure whether you want to call it a short track or an intermediate. It's right in between. It's 1.366 miles in length, so it's not a mile and a half track. It's also not a short track either, but I guess it's closer to an intermediate than anything else. We have 367 laps this weekend, 500 miles. It's going to be a pretty long race. Laps take around 29 seconds on fresher tires, and obviously it's going to get periodically worse throughout the race because tire fall off is a pretty big deal on a track like Darlington. It's definitely going to eat up the tires here, and we have just over 250 total dominator points, so yes, dominators are going to be very important this weekend. Last week, we didn't really care about dominators, so a complete switch here, complete 180. We're going to want as many dominators in our lineup as possible, probably looking at 2 to 3 dom builds for the most part. And if you're looking for some comparable tracks to Darlington, like I said, it's a pretty unique track for the most part, but I think Auto Club, just because of the tire wear they have, is somewhat comparable. You could also look at Homestead. The problem is we don't have any races at Homestead this year, and I'm not going to be looking at the Gen 6 car data to draw any conclusions for this weekend, so you can kind of throw that out. I think you can look at Dover. That's got some tire wear, although that's a concrete surface, but it's also steep and a bit of a shorter track. So looking at drivers that were fast at Auto Club, Dover, and I guess you could throw in some of the intermediates this year, although tire wear is not going to be as big of a deal at those tracks. But looking at how cars were fast in practice this weekend, for the most part, should be able to tell a pretty strong sign of who is going to be fast this weekend, mixed in with the other stuff that I talked about. And as per usual, I do want to shout out the winners from last week's contest. If you don't know what I'm talking about, host a weekly YouTube contest. If you want to join in, I'll put a link down below in the comment section. You can reach out to me on Twitter, or it will get you in during the live show. But come in, compete against everybody watching these videos in the community, and take home some prizes and a shout out on the channel. So anyway, coming home in first place, taking home the gold and over $120 we had Charles P34 taking home first. And on the silver medal, we have Dirty Bird 27, who's been a long-time member here. And rounding out the podium, taking on the bronze, Barrett 2245. And still winning some money here, but outside the podium, we had Pennell, and that is oddly close to my last name, just written F with a P there. Then we had Jake Pool 88 rounding out the top 5. Shout out to the winners. If you want to join in, make sure you hit that link down below. I'd be more than happy to have you join. And if you want my overall thoughts on the pricing this weekend, I think for a near 400 lap race, they did a pretty solid job. We have 2 guys in the 11K range, probably the 2 that I would pick as well. And you have multiple drivers in that 10K range. So having 6 of these guys in the 5-figure salary range, I think makes sense for a race like this. We need some expensive drivers because dominator points are going to be at a premium this weekend. And overall, I mean, there's going to be some guys I think are a little bit too cheap. Some I think are a little bit overpriced, but we will talk through it here. And as always, if you do want access to the sheet that I preview for you guys for free over on YouTube, but there's a lot more to it on my end over on the Patreon. Link can be found down below for that if you do want to join the community. Projections for all sites, ownership projections, the optimizer, the Discord community, which is absolutely awesome. Green flag speed cheat sheet, pit stop times, all that fun stuff. You can find it there, simulation scores, and much, much more. And also, football is starting soon, and I have a very similar sheet for football. If you want to come in, join, and check those out, it's the beginning of the month, so is the best time to sign up if you want to do just that. But anyway, I will stop plugging away here. We will get into the driver-by-driver breakdown. We will start with Kyle Larson, the most expensive driver over on DK, 11.4 on DraftKings, only 13K over on FanDuel. He is starting in 7th. Did have the best odds to win this race pre-practice and qualifying, tied with Denny Hamlin. These are not the most updated odds yet because I'm just waiting for DraftKings to update it, and they have not yet done that. I will update it at some point in this video if I pause and check that they did update. But anyway, I like Kyle Larson here. It's going to be hard not to like him. We know he's awesome at Darlington. This is a great racetrack for him. Great riding around the top. I know practice wasn't super impressive early on for him. The 1-lap, 5-lap wasn't amazing, but as we got longer in the run, that's where he got stronger, and that's perfectly fine for me in a 400-lap race. I mean, it's not quite 400, but pretty close to it, over 350. 5 in the 10-lap, 2nd in the 15, and then 1st in the 20-lap. I was looking at some of the green flag speed cheat sheet times, and I do have it sorted out where you can look at similar tracks or at high tire wear venues. He's 1st in green flag speed at the higher tire wear venues this year. Also, I believe 1st or 2nd at the similar tracks as well. So I have a hard time seeing Kyle Larson not perform well during this race. And also, I was watching the first Darlington race, and while he did finish 36th, if you look past the actual result, he ran much better than that early on. He started in the front row with Joey Legano, actually beat him out starting 2nd compared to Joey Legano being on the pole. Led the laps early on that ended up having a couple issues during the race, which unfortunately ended up killing his day. I believe he spun out at one point, and then I want to say he had an engine issue, which obviously he finished 36th. But he was fast. He was dominating early on. If you're looking at some of the similar tracks this year, 1st at Auto Club, another high tire wear venue. 2nd at Vegas, 6th at Dover. We'll exclude Darlington, but he had a really good car. 2nd at Kansas, 9th at Charlotte. Kyle Larson's probably my favorite to win this race. I mean, great in the long run in practice. Looking at some of the similar tracks this year, the numbers aggregated, pretty much tops on the board, top 5 just about everywhere. So I'm liking Larson quite a bit. I think you can play him in cash games. I think you can play him in tournaments. I have not yet ran my ownership projections. I have not yet ran my projections, so we'll have to see how he stacks up as far as being a cash game play or not. But he's certainly someone I'm going to want to target in tournaments because this is a fantastic track for him. If you're looking at his numbers at Darlington the past few seasons, doesn't have the wins recently, but the 2nd most laps led, and I believe the most fast laps, and overall some very strong numbers. So definitely going to be a big fan of Kyle Larson this weekend. Denny Hamlin, $11,100 on DraftKings, the 2nd most expensive driver on both sites. He's starting at 11th, kind of doing as a pretty similar play to Kyle Larson. These guys both opened with the best odds to win this race, although I do prefer Larson if I had to pick between the 2. But he was top 10 across the board in practice, just wasn't quite as fast as Kyle Larson in the long run in that 15 and 20 lap session there. But if you're looking at his numbers at Darlington, he's got the best average running position the past few seasons. He's got tied for the most wins, 4 top 5s, a good chunk of dominator points. He's been very fast this year. 1st at Charlotte, 4th at Kansas, wasn't amazing at Darlington, wasn't amazing at Dover. Had some issues at Vegas, but he was fast during the race, and the Toyota sucked early on at Auto Club. But I don't see a reason why Denny Hamlin's going to be absolute trash here. I just have my concerns of him getting up front and dominating, which you're going to have to do at that price point. So I'm not going to rule him out, but I'm probably not going to have a crazy amount of Denny Hamlin just because of the price point, and I think I'd rather get to Kyle Larson personally. And then Chase Elliott here, $10,700, the most expensive driver over on FanDuel. He's starting in 23rd, so obviously you have some nice PD upside there, but I'm not sure exactly how much Chase Elliott I'm going to want to get to. Not saying he's necessarily a bad play, but at these price points, I need dominator points. I'd rather get my place differential with some of these cheaper drivers, unless Elliott's going to be able to get up front and dominate at some point, which I just don't really see happening, looking at some of the practice speeds. P14 in the 1 lap, P10 in the 5, and then P26 and P20 in the 10 and 15 lap runs. I don't think he's going to be a 25th place car during the race, but qualifying didn't make it look too promising. He does have a couple top fives here at Darlington. I'll never forget the one year where I think he was going to win, and they had the issue with Kyle Busch, and then he gave him the middle finger. But he finished 5th at Darlington early in the year, finished 1st at Dover, which, I mean, those are tracks I'm definitely looking at. So I'm not going to completely rule out Chase Elliott, but I feel like I may end up coming in underweight compared to the field, just because I think I'd rather get some more exposure to some of these guys with more dominator potential. But like I said, I'm not going to completely rule him out because it's Chase Elliott, and he's been absolutely awesome this year. Just didn't really impress me too much as far as practice is concerned. Tyler Reddick, $10,500, a pretty steep price point for Tyler Reddick, but this is one of his best tracks, starting in 4th. Was 4th in the 1 lap in practice, 5th in the 5 lap. Didn't love what I saw in the 10 and 15 lap runs, but Tyler Reddick at Darlington is always going to be a factor for me. He's got a top 5 here. Doesn't really have quite the dominator points, but finished 2nd here early in the season. Was absolutely atrocious at Dover, which sucks. And then Auto Club, he finished 24th, but this is a track where he can ride the high line well, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 5 contender for the majority of the race, picking up fast laps, but that's a pretty steep price point to get to, so I don't think Reddick's going to have any insane ownership. So if you're looking for a low-owned play, especially compared to Chase Elliott, I don't think he's a bad pivot in tournaments. Kyle Busch, $10,200. He is starting in 5th, kind of a similar play to Tyler Reddick. And that's not a bad price point on Kyle Busch, and while he wasn't super strong in the short run in practice, 20, 25, and 30 lap run, we're looking at P3, P1, and P1. Now you got to keep in mind Kyle Larson didn't run a 25 or 30 lap run. Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, some other big name drivers didn't do that, but I mean, a good chunk of them did put 20 lap runs down that you would think would be contenders for this race. And Kyle Busch looked pretty good, so I don't think we can rule him out. I know his numbers at Darlington aren't going to look super impressive. Some of those finishes can be a bit skewed. Did finish, I believe, 33rd earlier in the season here, but he did have a pretty strong car early on. But as you're going to notice, Darlington, some stupid things happened where some good cars got knocked out early. You had Kyle Busch 33rd, Ross Chastain 30th, Kyle Larson in 36th, and I know for sure when I was rewatching the race, I saw all 3 of those guys running in the top 5 early on in the race. But if you look at the other tracks for Kyle Busch, 2nd at Charlotte, 3rd at Kansas, 7th at Dover, 4th at Las Vegas. Toyota sucked early on in the season at Auto Club, so I'm going to rule that out. But Busch, finish-wise, I mean, he's been getting the job done at intermediate or large tracks. If you want to throw in Pocono, I believe he finished 2nd during that race. Obviously got disqualified at the end, but either way on DraftKings, it still would have counted. So starting 5th, I'm not sure Kyle Busch is going to have a ton of ownership. Name value-wise, yeah, he's always going to get a bump just because of that, but I like the price point. I think he's a sneaky GPP play. Between him and Reddick, it's kind of a toss-up. I feel like I can trust Kyle Busch a little bit more than Tyler Reddick, but both definitely have upside. And then Ross Chastain, $10,000 flat. He's really cheap over on FanDuel. I'm definitely going to be looking to take advantage of that price point over there, but I like him on both sides. He is starting in 12th, never really qualifies that well, but he's got a really strong car this weekend. Top 10 across the board in practice. P3 in the 5 lap, P2 in the 10, and then P3 in the 15. Fell off a little bit as far as the 20-25 lap run. I believe he said he was getting extremely loose in practice and he didn't like it, so he came off the track. But, I mean, you got to like Ross here. If you're watching the Darlington race early in the season, it looked like he pretty much had the car to beat, at least after Larson got out of the picture. But I know he finished 30th, but he had a super fast car. He's good everywhere. He was good here in the Xfinity Series as well. This is a great track for him. I believe he's running the Xfinity race today. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet, so I'm not sure how he's going to do. But I think Chastain's definitely going to be a contender here. I would play him in any format here, cash games or tournaments, and definitely going to try to be overweight on him. Has a great pick through this year, and just green flag speed-wise, he checks almost all the boxes for me. And then dropping down to the 9K range, we have Joey Legano, $9,800. He is starting on the pole, unfortunately. I was just hoping anybody besides Joey would be on the pole, because I hate when a car that's not strong in practice looks blazing fast in qualifying, and then just puts you in a weird spot, because you want to sway things based off of practice speeds, but you also have to take into account that he put down a really fast lap in qualifying. He's going to be on the pole, and it's really tough to pass Joey Legano. Although I will say, first Darlington race, he's qualified on the pole, and he did not lead the first laps of that race. Kyle Larson actually got him, and it wasn't until Kyle Larson ended up dying out where Joey Logano ended up really dominating the race. But he's got the best pit stall. That is certainly going to help him. But practice numbers were not impressive. I can't really say anything good about those, so I'm not going to try to paint a pretty picture here. But Darlington's not a bad track for him. He's got some of the overall best numbers. Obviously, that can be propped up a little bit at what he did earlier in the season here at Darlington, but always in the top 20, top 15 contender always. But, starting in the pole, you're going to have to lead a lot of laps here. You're going to pretty much have to finish in the top 10 to make that work. But it is certainly possible. It's just at tracks similar to Darlington this year, at least the sample size I'm looking at. It's not been super impressive for Joey. He did not finish well at Dover. He did finish 5th at Auto Club. That's when the Toyotas were absolutely awful. 14th at Vegas. Did win Darlington, but he doored William Byron at the end to make that happen. 17th at Kansas and 20th at Charlotte. So if Legano was not on the pole, I'm probably not playing him. But now that he's on the pole, you have to have interest because we have a long stage one. If he can lead a good chunk of stage one, good chance he is knocking on the door to be optimal. Not saying he's a lock to be optimal, but I would say he's a safe bet to lead some laps in this race. But he's definitely not my favorite dominator play in this slate. I'm not going to go crazy overboard on Joey Logano. I'm obviously going to have to play some. He's going to be high owned because of what he did earlier in the season in Darlington on the pole. So I understand that. It's just, there's guys I like a little bit better. I like Chastain, I like Kyle Larson more as far as just pure dominator plays go. And Truex showed a lot more speed in practice, but starting in 17th, that's a bit of a tougher path to get up there. So just to put it shortly, I think Logano is a fine cash play. I think he's a safe bet to lead some laps in this race. I'm just not sure how long he's going to be able to stay up front. But we have a long stage one, and if he can get a good lead, he's tough to pass. Yeah, good chance he dominates quite a bit and gets a lot of points early on. Anyway, dropping down to Truex, $9,500. He's starting in 17th. He was basically the breadwinner in practice. P5 in the one lap, and then second, first, and second from the 5 through 20 lap run. So it seems like he's got a really good car, and he's always been really good at Darlington. He's averaging the second most DraftKings points per race here the past few seasons. The second best running position, has the best drive rating, has a win under his belt, and the most dominator points, the most laps led, and the second most fast laps, just behind Kyle Larson. And if you're looking at how he did earlier this season, he was another driver that, an issue at Darlington, but he was running a lot better than that. 24th, 6th at Kansas, 12th at Charlotte, 12th at Dover, 8th at Vegas, 13th at Auto Club. We know Truex hasn't been able to get into the win column, and obviously he's not in the playoffs now, so it'd be kind of hard to see it happening. I think I would probably be more impressed if he qualified a lot better, but starting in 17th is going to limit that dominator upside. So I want to get to some Truex, though. It seems like he's got a really fast car, and he knows this track well. And looking at the green flag speed chart for how I have it set up this week, he does profile pretty well for me, so I'll have some interest. It's just, I do wish he qualified better. I wasn't really looking to play Truex as a place differential guy, but he's only $9,500, so he could be a nice complementary piece to a driver starting closer to the front. Ryan Blaney, $9,200. He is starting in 9th. Wasn't super impressive in practice. Looks like a fringe top 10 car, in my opinion. Kind of backed it up in qualifying where he was just inside the top 10, qualified 9th. But Darlington's not a good track for Blaney. This is actually one of his worst tracks in all of NASCAR. Only has one top 10 here the past couple of seasons. Even worse than he's only got one top 15. Typically finishing around 15th to 20th place. I don't really have any interest in Blaney here. He is cheap, yes, but I would just rather get the Truex starting 8 spots further back. Going down to the 8K range, we have William Byron, $8,900, and I think he's going to be a pretty darn good tournament play this weekend. This is a pretty good track for him, and there has been some theories that he could have been the test car for Hendrick since he got the wins under his belt early on in the season, which, I could kind of get behind that. He was also super fast in practice this weekend. Looks like he's going to have a top 5, top 6 car. Starting in 3rd at his price point, if he gets up front at any point during this race and just doesn't screw up the finish, I think he can make his way as a sneaky optimal play here below $9,000. Just starting in 3rd, it's kind of a tough spot to begin, but it's a good track for him. It's just there's been a lot of bad luck for William Byron. I remember when COVID started, I want to say he went right to the front early on. And then I think it was when him and Jimmy Johnson were running 1st and 2nd. They ended up getting killed early on during that race. But then early in the season at Darlington, he was leading a lot of laps. Looked like he was going to win the race. And Joey Legano just put him into the wall where he ended up finishing 13th. But I think William Byron's going to be a sneaky play here. Not a bad track for him. And I don't think anyone's going to play him because he's starting close to the front. There's some other options that I think are going to be more popular in this price range, especially with Kevin Harvick, how cheap he is this weekend. So I think Byron's a pretty good tournament play. Obviously, wouldn't go there in cash games, but keep your eye on him in GPPs. Christopher Bell, $8,700. He is starting in 2nd. I really liked him heading to the weekend, but man, this is a tough spot to be in, starting in second place. Very similar play to William Byron. I would not play them both together, but I'll have exposure to both just in case they can pick up some fast laps, lead some laps early on. And I wouldn't say it's out of the question that Christopher Bell could lead some laps over Joey Legano at the start of the race. He was faster in practice and was just behind Legano in qualifying. Although one thing I should mention is that William Byron, I mean, there's some bad blood between him or Joey Legano. He's going to be starting behind him. Maybe there's a chance in the first turn where William Byron just takes him out and gets some early revenge on Legano. I'm not sure he's got that in him, but we'll have to see what happens because, I mean, Legano has definitely owed some revenge from William Byron from early on in the season, and a lot of people have probably forgotten about that. But anyway, as far as Christopher Bell is concerned, he has been killing it at similar tracks this year, just getting good finish after good finish. I mean, 5th at Charlotte, 5th at Kansas, 6th at Darlington, 4th at Dover, 10th at Vegas. Obviously, Auto Club, we can pretty much throw out the window. So yeah, Bell's, in the same category as William Byron. Looks like he had some speed in practice and should be a top 5 contender. Tournament play only for me, and I would not play both together. And Kevin Harvick here, $8,500, cheap on both sides. He's starting in 18th. Wasn't fast in practice, but I feel like I say that pretty much every single week for Kevin Harvick. He's never really fast in practice, and I don't think we should ever be overly concerned about it. He is super good at Darlington. If you're looking at his numbers, you're going to see dark green bars here. The best average finish of 3.3, running position of 7.9, the second best driver rating, has 2 wins, 5 top 5, 6 top 10s. I want to say the top 10 streak, it goes back for years and years. I can't recall completely, but I think it's 10 plus races. He's just really good here at Darlington. So starting in 18th, I know he's not a massive PD play, but I think I'd rather play Kevin Harvick over a guy like Daniel Suarez, who we'll talk about pretty soon. So I'm definitely behind Kevin Harvick this weekend, although I would expect him to be pretty chalky. It's just a great track for him. But he's just been so consistent at getting great finishes this year. I mean, 3rd at Charlotte, 5th at Kansas, 15th at Kansas, 4th at Darlington, 9th at Dover, 12th at Vegas, 7th at Auto Club. And it's not like he's really been flashy outside of a couple of races. He's just really good at not making too many mistakes and taking advantage of that, where other drivers are making plenty of mistakes. I mean, he's averaging the most DraftKings points per race in the 7-race sample size that I am looking at. 7.3 average finish, which is the best in the series. Has a 1 under his belt, 3 top 5s. I mean, he's just been extremely consistent. That's all I can really ask for from a guy that's $8,500 starting in 18th. Alex Bowman, $8,200. He's starting in 16th. And while it's been a pretty rough stretch for Bowman, the track types that I'm looking at this week, besides finishing 29th at Darlington, not been bad for him. I mean, 10th, 9th, 5th at Dover, which is a track that I'm definitely looking at this weekend. 1 at Vegas, although a bit of a backdoor win there, and then 25th at Auto Club. But I think Bowman's not a terrible play. I think he would have qualified a lot better than 16th if he didn't hit the wall during qualifying. So I think he's got some speed here. I mean, it looks like he had a top 8, top 9 car in practice. 7th in the 5 lap, 8th in the 10, 9th in the 15th, and 8th in the 20. So it could be a bit of a sneaky play. He's sandwiched right in between Kevin Harvick and Daniel Suarez, 2 guys I think will be pretty high owned this weekend, so he could be a good pivot there. And then Daniel Suarez here, $8,000. He is starting dead last. He cannot lose any spots here, and I think he's going to be pretty popular, but like I said, I haven't had much time to digest the slate. We're kind of going through it together for the first time. Got to run some numbers, ownership projections. But if Suarez is going to be chalky, I mean, there's a very strong chance he is going to lose a lap because he has to make a passer penalty because he failed inspection 3 times. So it's not like he's just going to the back and starting from the back. He has to go down pit road to start the race. It's a 1.3 mile track, 29 seconds on fresh tires at the beginning-ish, 29 seconds-ish, I should say. I mean, there's a decent chance he's going to lose a lap here, and if he loses a lap at Darlington, we have a very long stage 1. If we don't get a quick yellow, Suarez might just get stuck a lap down all day, and it's going to limit his upside, so I'd be very careful with the ownership. I would not get crazy there. If you want to play him in cash games, I get it, because if there's a quick yellow and Suarez in the lead lap, I mean, he's starting 36. He showed top 15 speeds in practice, but in tournaments, I mean, like I said, if he's going to be high owned, I think it pays to be underweight there, because if he gets stuck a lap down all day, yes, there's going to be some other cars stuck a lap down. He's going to gain positions. I would fully expect Suarez to compete for a top 25 during this race, but if he's not getting in that top 15, and you have guys like Harvick and Bowman contending for top 10s, top 8s at their price points, I'd rather be on their side of things. Plus, you have guys like Byron and Bell that could potentially get some dominator points mixed in. And we have some other cheaper drivers below Suarez that I think are playable. So I'd be careful with him. I think we'll have a better idea in the live show what I want to do with Suarez. But as of right now, I'm putting on the caution tape right now. But we'll have to see how he stacks up. And dropping down to the 7K range, and I'll try to do this a little bit quicker than I have been. I feel like I've been taking a while. But we have Chase Briscoe, $7,900 over on DraftKings. And Not super impressed with Austin Cindric or Chase Briscoe this weekend. I don't think he's going to be a guy that I get too much of. P3 in the 5 lap in practice, P24 in the 1 lap. Looking at some of his numbers at similar tracks this season. Did finish 4th at Charlotte, but that was a complete attrition race. 24th at Kansas, 20th at Darlington, 13th at Dover. Vegas been crossed off, 16th Auto Club. Like, he's not the worst player in the world, but not someone I'm really going to try to get to. I imagine he's going to be one of the lower owned drivers on the slate. Austin Dillon, $7,800. Luck boxed his way into the playoffs. Definitely does not deserve to be there, but Darlington, not a bad track for him. 11.3 average finish the past few seasons here. In the top 10 half the time, in the top 20 each and every single time, but he was absolutely atrocious in practice. Qualified much better than where he ended up in practice. Finished 9th at Darlington early in the season, 2nd at Auto Club, 23rd at Dover. RCR was awful at Dover. I remember that race because that was kind of heavy on both him and Tyler Reddick. But starting in 13th, I mean, could be very low in play like Chase Briscoe. Probably won't get to much of him. Austin Cindric, $7,600. He's starting in 6th. Super fast in practice. Was very good in the short run. Obviously qualified well. P3 in the 10 lap, P5 in the 15. I was kind of hoping we had a 20, 25, 30 lap run from him to see how he stacked up against some of the elite drivers, but unfortunately, we did not get that. Looks like he was going to probably trail off a little bit. And he's a pretty risky play starting in 6th. I know finish-wise, he's been pretty good at just staying clean in a good chunk of the races this year. Finished 11th at Kansas, 18th at Darlington, though, 19th at Vegas, 12th at Auto Club. It's going to be tough to get to much Cindric. I mean, I know he was fast, but he's still a rookie. First playoff start. I don't know. It's going to be kind of tough to get there. I'd kind of put an air of caution there. Michael McDowell, $7,500. He is starting in 10th. Looks like he out-qualified where he practiced. I mean, wasn't super impressed with him. 17th, 17th, 15th. Looking at some of his numbers at Darlington, not very impressive. An average running position of 24.6. Average finish of 21.7. Looking at some of the similar finishes this year at these track types. 8th at Charlotte, 7th at Darlington, which was great, but I don't really see him replicating that, so I'll probably be pretty low on Michael McDowell. Bubba Wallace is kind of interesting, $7,300, and as you're going to notice, he's no longer in the 23 car. He's now in the 45 car for Kurt Busch because they're in the owner's points. So him and Ty Gibbs switched cars. I don't really think it makes much of a difference. I mean, 45 and 23 are pretty much equal speed-wise. It's not like one's really that much better than the other. And while he wasn't great in the short run, I know less drivers ran long runs in practice, but it was still P7 to 15, then P4, P3, P2. So I don't think Bubba's got a bad car this weekend. I know he's starting in 8th, and that's going to be kind of tough to get to, but I don't think he's a bad tournament play. And Eric Jones, $7,200. While he was terrible in the 10 lap, he was P3 in the 1 and P6 in the 5. At the high tire wear venues this year, I believe he's 4th in average green flag speed, and he's also pretty good at Darlington. Has a win under his belt back in the 20 car days here at Darlington, but even then he's got a couple top 5s. A few top 10s, and didn't finish well here in the season where he finished 25th, but he was 10th at Dover and had a super fast car at Auto Club, which, you know, I hate to call too many tracks similar to Darlington, but trying to do my best at looking at some either higher tire wear venues or just some similar tracks as far as the length of it, so kind of grasping at straws on a few of these. But I think Eric Jones should have some speed this weekend, starting in 15th. That should keep him pretty under the radar. And Ty Gibbs, now in the 23 car, he was pretty slow in practice. P33 in the 1 lap, P29 in the 5. Got a little bit better in the longer runs, but you got to keep in mind not as many guys ran longer runs in practice. So I'm probably not going to be too excited about playing Ty Gibbs here. Another guy that I don't think is going to have too much ownership. Going down in the 6K range, we have Chris Buescher, $6,900. He was atrocious in practice. He's starting in 27, so I imagine he's going to have some ownership just because you have to imagine he can gain some spots here and there. Finished 8th at Dover, 16th at Darlington. Don't think he's a terrible play. Wish he was a little bit cheaper, especially with how bad he practiced, but does have a couple of top 10s under his belt. At Darlington, Brett Keselowski, back in the day, not too bad at Darlington, but that was in a much better ride. Now with Roush Fenway, Keselowski, not expecting too much here. I feel like him and Chris Buescher you can basically peg as the same play, although Keselowski was much faster in practice, so I might give him the slight edge there. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $6,500. He's starting in 20th, so not as much PD upside, but he might be lower owned, and I don't think that's a bad thing because I think he's actually a decent pivot here in tournaments because of the steeper tracks this season or the intermediates. Stenhouse has not been bad whatsoever. I know his overall numbers at Darlington aren't super impressive, but he's always been a top 20 guy for the most part. But these finishes are not bad at all. I mean, 10th, 2nd, 8th, 7th, finished 21st at Vegas, but at the most similar tracks, I would say for Darlington, obviously finished 8th at Darlington, then 2nd at Dover, then another higher tire venue at Auto Club where he finished 10th. Not bad for Stenhouse. I don't mind him as a cheap tournament play down low this weekend. And Eric Almirola finished 11th at Darlington early in the season, 19th at Dover, 6th at Auto Club. Not super excited about him. Pretty similar play to Ricky Stenhouse in my opinion, just has better track history here at Darlington. If you want to put your exposure even on the two, I am fine with that. Both were kind of fast in practice for where they're priced. P13 in the 1 lap and P16 in the 10 for Eric Almirola. Justin Haley finished 3rd at Darlington early in the season, but I mean, I don't see that happening again. He was very slow in practice, starting in 14th. I just can't get there. I would never play Castle above $6,000. That's insane. I know he did great last week, but that's Daytona, and it means absolutely nothing. He was almost the worst car in practice. Dropping down to the 5K range, almost all these guys are similar placed, so I would really say try to mix and match them for the most part. But Cole Custer is probably my favorite of the bunch, where he was 7th in the 1 lap in practice, also 21st in the 5 lap, which was definitely the best speed of anybody of this bunch. But Hemrick, yeah, you can play him, but I'd rather just take a couple extra spots with Ty Dillon, who's shown that he can race clean for the most part this year and grab a top 25 finish, which all I can really ask for below 6K, starting nearly in 30th place. He's also 20th in the 1 lap in practice and almost in the top 15 for the 10 lap. Harrison Burton also showed a strong 1 lap run, starts 1 spot ahead of Ty Dillon. These guys are very interchangeable, but Cole Custer, probably my favorite here of the few. Corey LaJoie is almost starting dead last, probably going to be really slow, but did show top 30 speeds in practice. I don't hate it. You could probably do worse. Todd Gillen was also extremely slow in practice. If you're looking at how he finished at Darlington early in the year, though, did finish 15th, 16th at Charlotte, 20th at Dover, 20th at Auto Club. Like, none of these guys are fun plays, but they're all basically the same. Like, projection-wise, I have a hard time seeing really one stand out way above from the rest, although I do imagine Cole Custer will grade out the best. And then Yaley, McLeod, Cody Ware, no thank you. You play those guys at Daytona and Talladega and nowhere else. And I do want to mention that the odds just got updated right after I was done recording that, of course. So Joey Logano moved as the favorite, not too surprised about that. Then Bell in 2nd, Reddick in 3rd, Kyle Busch in 4th, then Byron in 5th, Kyle Larson all the way down to 7th, and Chastain in 8th, and Hamlin in 9th. So I do think there's some decent value there. I mean, you have Austin Cindric with better odds than Kyle Larson and Ross Chastain, which seems like a bit of an overreaction as far as practice is concerned. So if you guys are in betting states, make sure to take a look at those updated odds. And I do factor them in as far as the finishing position is concerned in projections. But that's going to be it for this week's video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. And if you made it all the way through, please let me know. I do appreciate you.